No, you're not.
Yeah, I'm good. On my screen, I'm fine.
Broadcast is live.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's panel, Remembering the January 6th Insurrection. Excited to be here with some great folks on today. We can move to the next slide. We'll start with some introductions. First, we have myself. I should probably start with me. My name's Bernice. I am the regional director with Flora Future Florida in West Central Florida. So if you're in Hillsborough, Pinellas counties, you are one of my neighbors. And I am so excited to introduce our special guest today from Florida for Change. We have Sam Ronan. Welcome, Sam. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm just happy to be here. I wish it was for a better topic, but I'm happy to be here and talk about it.
Absolutely. Well, we are lucky to have you on today, and ready to dig into the meat of talking about the insurrection. Definitely agree. I wish it was a better topic, but we've got more in the future, so we already know we want you back. So I would also like to introduce my colleagues from For Our Future. We have David Bonilla in East Central Florida. How are you, David?
Hey, I'm doing really good. Happy New Year to everyone. Yeah, this is David. I'm the regional director in the greater Orlando area. So folks that are getting out tonight or around tonight safely and carefully, but also around the vigils to recognize this night and the historic nature of this day just a year ago even. Really glad to be here to talk about this subject and kind of basically look on it a year later.
Awesome. And last but not least, in this incredible blazer here, we have my colleague Juan from Miami. How are you doing today, Juan? Oh, you're on mute, Juan.
I'm trying to come off mute.
Oh, now you're back on mute.
Mute. Am I
Now
off?
you're unmuted.
Okay. I'm so sorry, guys. My computer on my end is like pixelating, and my Mac is just failing on me. But hello, I'm glad to be here, Sam. Thank you for coming out. I love the beard gang in the house. My name is Juan Moore. I am the regional director For Our Future Florida for the Southern District. So that's Miami-Dade County, Broward County, and Palm Beach County. And I'm super stoked to be here because it we've lost a lot of brothers and sisters through coronavirus. We lost so many people and a lot of hope on January 6th. Um, but we also need to magnify the things that went on, the players in it. So let's discuss it. Let's talk about it, and let's remember our fallen brothers and sisters.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's dig right into it. We can go to the next slide. So January 6th, take yourselves back to last year. We were already in the middle of a pandemic, so it was not a great time. Congress was meeting to certify the election results with Joe Biden elected as president and Kamala Harris elected as vice president. And so, call to action by Trump, we had thousands of rioters occupy and vandalize the Capitol. The end result was 5 dead, 138 officers injured, which is a huge number, and 4 officers who actually died by suicide within 7 months of the attack. So I just want to sit with this slide for a little bit and just hear from the other folks who are on. What was your reaction when you first heard about the January 6th insurrection? Like when you saw it on the news or you saw a tweet about it, like what was your reaction to that?
And I'll kind of jump in and start because I know this was I think everyone probably experienced it very similarly, but maybe a little bit differently. I was like watching this live on Twitch because I don't have cable, and I just remember like because obviously everyone was aware that this is the certification, it's the next step in the process, and it was what was usually no one would ever pay attention to this in prior elections. it was just a really big deal. And then and it was really surreal watching it live unfold and wondering what is actually going to happen here. And just a lot of uncertainty that day that I think a lot of people were, sitting in just a year ago today, and genuinely wondering, like, is am I in a movie right now? Like, what's going to happen? Is what and all of it brought along and just absolutely cheered on by the former president, and that was, I think, for at least myself, a big eye-opening moment in how delicate this whole experiment can be, and really that it just takes a few personalities that are going to push against democracy taking hold. And that's how it can really come together. And I think January 6th put that to light in a lot of ways that I really didn't appreciate before.
I tell you what I saw in my eyesight, in my view. We were all, anticipating. We had just come off of what we consider in our field a win. The nation probably considered it a win as well. We had finally got Trump out. As I saw this unfold as a Black man, I thought, what in the white privilege is this? Following right before this, we saw the anti-riot bills. They were generated to stop the rioting. I'm a business owner as well, so I understand that. But you could definitely see as this unfolded that those same tactics that were used against the rioters and peaceful protesters throughout the election were not used on the people who the insurrectionists. I don't even like to call them rioters, the terrorists, the domestic terrorists. And so I just saw a blatant, just a blatant night and day between the way the reaction to the people were out there. This is the nation's capital. This is and I also want to say, it's a lot of the TV shows and the news channels spin this like this was a get together, this was a picnic, or this was just people gathering. We saw that a lot of times during the election, but this was definitely a plan to not only take over our nation's capital, but to hurt people and possibly kill people. And so I automatically just thought, this is white privilege at its finest. This is a culmination of Trump's rhetoric. And this is also where we're at during a pandemic. So, excuse my French, I thought all shit hit the fan.
Yeah, if I can piggyback on that, the first thing that I thought of was the fact that we had been out in the streets peacefully, overwhelmingly peacefully, and there is good evidence to support that last year, or 2 years ago now, I guess. Wow, the way time is moving lately, so many things going on. And I've been tear gassed, and I had friends hurt by the police without any hesitation. And I agree with you. I think what we really saw was privilege. It was hesitation. It was so much hesitation to push back on what is domestic terrorism. And it wasn't that it was surprising, but really seeing it so boldly, seeing like we were treated this way and this is being treated that way was just very striking to me. There's sort of this strange and yet familiar bewilderment, I think, to just have it so easily demonstrated that certain people will absolutely be treated differently, even for something so heinous, so violent.
Yeah, absolutely. And this started as kind of like a rally that they were having. They were initially having a rally and talking about, Trump at the time was talking about how the election results were false, which we know is not true. The reality is that he lost fair and square, and like it is what it is. But he kept giving us this narrative, this story about how the results were not true, that he actually won, blah, blah, blah. And so this rally, they went from this rally to the Capitol and caused just mass destruction of the Capitol. Like people were taking photos, and like the Senate chamber was empty. People were taking photos there. They went into like Nancy Pelosi's office. They were messing up her office. We had people who actually died. And some people died either like right before or right after the event, of those 5 people. And just the trauma that it caused on the officers, and the fact that we had 4 officers who died by suicide within 7 months of the attempt, that can tell you how traumatic this event was, that it just sat with people. Because it tore at, David mentioned the experiment. It tore at the American experiment. And so I don't know, what's kind of sitting with me the most is like, it kind of reminded me how fragile our democracy really is. And it just takes a couple of people, or one strong man, right, to really rally folks around terrible ideas. Yeah, so thinking back about this day, and I know I asked y'all, like, what was your first initial reaction? But once you heard kind of like the death and the injuries that had happened, like, were you surprised? And, you know, were you surprised that there was not more damage or less damage? Like, what were y'all thinking around that?
I was thinking Trump has to go to jail. If this is not a jailable offense, then I don't know what is a jailable offense. That was one of my thoughts. In hindsight, the sitting president isn't going to go directly to jail. But I was totally surprised and appalled. My dad serves in the military. He's a retired colonel in the Air Force. He's been stationed in Annandale and worked at the Pentagon. I have dire respect for our nation's capital, our flag, police officers, and the soldiers. And just seeing and knowing the protocols, if you've ever been to DC, it's not just an easy task to walk up into certain zones. It just seemed to me like a blatant attack, and it looked like it was thoroughly planned. And I would imagine, there's still some people that are culpable in this matter.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing that I was thinking of was how do we get rid of these people that we know are serving in Congress and definitely were supporting this? We're more than happy to go along with it. We're more than happy to risk the lives of their coworkers. And, it's a great time to mention that the first thing that Congresswoman Cori Bush did was actually that day she drafted up legislation while in hiding to expel Republican members of Congress who had been supporting this and had been plotting. And that bill, H-25, I believe, is still on the table. That's still something people can vote on.
Yeah, I love that, Sam. I love that you brought that up because some of those senators belong to us. And that's a shame. Past this January 6th, and I know, we'll have 2 segments or maybe 3. So this didn't happen on January 6th where our senators turned their back, but into the hearing, they definitely did. Senator Rubio, Senator Scott, you should be ashamed of yourself. We have pictures of you looking away, which we're not unfamiliar with. You turn your head away from us on a day-to-day basis, even in the pandemic. But you should be awfully ashamed. And I think, again, I would say if I was on the high court, we would be bringing charges up, even to the senators who how do you say it? They facilitated it. They facilitated these ideas, these hate mongering ideas, these destructive ideas. And again, Senator Scott, Senator Rubio, you're a Floridian. You guys are Floridians, and you should be a damn shamed.
Yeah, absolutely. We can move to the next slide. Oh, were you going to say something, David?
Oh, no, I was just going to move it on. But I do know that, like, as we were moving on to talk about the legislators that are culpable in all this, I was like, this is very timely to mention because there's just a lot of this is directly connected to the state.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're moving into talking a little bit about the Florida connections. So Florida actually leads the nation in number of arrests of insurrectionists who stormed the Capitol on January 6th. So like, just want to like pause there and hear reactions from y'all. Like, what does it feel to know that your fellow Floridians were pretty much the main ones who were involved in this insurrection? And like, what does that say about Florida?
Hey, I mean, it's one reason, one thing that I'm not happy to be a Floridian about, but it's a lot of things that happen. We say it's in the water. It's in our governor's mansion. It's in the Senate. And so, if you don't have leaders who are going to stand up, or leaders who are saying that these types of actions are just a bad day or the right of an American citizen, then what are you going to get from the people that you're leading? You're going to get the same kind of thing. So I truly, I'm upset that Florida man took part in this. One of the things that I wish he wouldn't have took part of. But again, we have the biggest Florida men sitting in the governor's mansion and in the Senate right now. So I think it's just a reflection of our leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it makes me think of moments in 2020 where we had groups like the Proud Boys actively organizing and marching throughout Florida. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, we're surprised that these people were out in the Capitol and they're our neighbors, on and on. But really, we saw them. We saw them. They've been kind of loud about it around here. There's been swastikas seen around Tampa Bay. There's been these organizations organizing and dropping pamphlets over in Pasco County. They've been here. And, there's been a lot of municipal governments that haven't been taking that seriously or equated Black Lives Matter with the Proud Boys, with neo-Nazis. And I do think that this is sort of the unfortunate result when we desensitize these kind of people and these kind of ideas. They're emboldened. How could they not be? And it's been happening. And they vote. And they vote.
Yeah, they vote. And, it's interesting because a lot of people who are not from Florida are thinking that Florida is turning into a red state. So just curious from you guys. I know it's kind of tangentially related, but like it's almost like this outside perspective of Florida is kind of shapes how we're seen. But the reality is, like, being a Floridian and being here day in and day out, we know that real people, working people, everyday people are struggling under Republican rule in Florida. And these people are not democratic. We need leadership to denounce these actions. And what we saw was not leadership from Senators Rubio or Scott, or, majority of the Floridian delegation to Congress.
Yeah. Oh, one thing I mentioned. I mean, it's been tough, obviously, across the state. It's a Republican. It has been a Republican legislator, and the legislature definitely is keen on keeping it that way, especially with the redistricting process, which is really unfortunate because it is. Then it's a question of has it trended a red state because of that, or just because power is keeping power? And just it's genuinely anti-democratic at this point. I do my best to remind people that this state was won by Obama twice, and that it has trended blue in the past, and that it is truly still a purple state and a state where organizing can make a deep impact on turnout, and that it does just come out to who is coming out to vote, and are we getting our message across? And so that's really what's key when looking at Florida and how we're really applying our efforts through the state. And it is unfortunate that it's just a byproduct of really polarized areas that we get. People in the state legislature and people in Congress that are just absolute radicals that really wouldn't have a shot in the dark of getting elected in a relatively reasonably districted area. and so we end up with folks that feel very safe in their seat, backing the January 6th rioters or providing cover to people that are being apologists for what happened on January 6th. And that doesn't, it's a shame that that's what becomes a public face, because that is far and away from what represents even the entirety of the state as we see election by election.
Absolutely. We can go ahead and move to the next slide. So let's talk about Marco. Let's bring him up. So what was, does anyone recall, because I honestly don't remember if he put out a statement, I'm just being transparent, or anything regarding January 6th. Does anyone remember if he did?
Don't specifically remember. I'd wager he gave some sort of condemnation before proceeding to do absolutely nothing to hold anyone accountable, which is possibly the most Marco Rubio thing that he could also do in light of the groups of people that were responsible for it.
Right, like thoughts and prayers, right? Like that statement. And it's not to shade thoughts and prayers, because I think those are important. It's important to think positive and important to, send out to the universe good vibes, but also we need action. And Marco has done absolutely nothing. We need every single elected official in America to say, like, what happened on January 6th was wrong. And this was an attempted coup on our democracy. But Marco will never do that. And the reason why is the insurrectionists are his supporters. And so would love to hear from y'all. What kind of reaction would you have wanted to hear from Marco? Or were you surprised at all when he didn't do anything about the January 6th riots?
I think I wanted him to do anything at all. I actually looked it up when you mentioned, did Marco even say anything? He sent a tweet. He sent a tweet to the president, apparently, on the day, at a point where his personal safety or the personal safety of friends of his might have been threatened. Just asking him, ask people to stop, which right there kind of says a lot, right? That a sitting U.S. senator, that our senator, believed that the president had some kind of personal oversight over this crowd that he acknowledged was violent, that he acknowledged was attacking the police, and then he proceeded to do nothing. He's voted against the January 6th commission. He's called it a partisan witch hunt. He's implied that there might not have been anything wrong on January 6th. Of course, much further after he was personally threatened and his friends were personally threatened, now it might have been nothing. But in that moment, he cared. In that moment, he asked for action, because Marco Rubio is selfish. He's inherently selfish. He's inherently self-serving. This is a man that was calling Donald Trump reckless and dangerous and saying weird things about his body when they were running against each other. And then the moment it became a matter of personal gain and getting ahead in his career, Marco Rubio was happy to lick the boot. And really, that's all we've seen since, because he is aware that he might need Trumpism to win re-election. He's got a strong black woman running against him. Now he's scared, and he's going to continue to lick the boot. He's going to continue to do whatever it is that is the absolute easiest, that requires absolutely nothing, and makes someone who isn't me rich, someone who isn't us rich. That's what he cares about.
Yeah, I was gonna say me too, Sam, because I'm definitely not rich. He needs to send some of those funds this way, right?
But yeah, that's I think that just about summarizes it. I know last year, I mean, it was I think he has a birthday at the end of May, and we got a group of people outside of his office. And one of the things that we were going to consider giving him was like a literal like toy spine or something. Like, here's a spine, hope you can use it. Because that's literally the case. And I think that really summarizes it really well, is just the fact that, you know, this is all just a cowardly political calculus for him, in that, you know, if I speak out against the insurrection, that was just by anyone with any sort of judgment on the matter can see that, you know, this was incited by Trump, and was really carried out by his most ardent supporters. And that's exactly the reason why it happened. And it was fueled by Trump's inability to accept the results of the election, and just going on to say that it was all basically voter fraud and fairy dust that caused this all to happen. And Marco Rubio was someone who ultimately didn't take the time to stand against him, and actually, you know, say that this is, you know, no, we had free and fair elections, and the result didn't pan out for you. Instead, he ended up just, you know, waffling on every moment of the subject, and that's something that we really hope to change this year, especially knowing that this is the time that we can hold him to account.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things to remember is we have an opportunity this year to hold Marco Rubio accountable. And the numbers are not necessarily in Rubio's favor. Like, I don't think, hey, we're automatically a red state. We do have a strong and incredible Black woman who's running against him. And there's just an opportunity to really say, like, Rubio, you did wrong. I mean, last time he wasn't going to run for re-election, I was so joyful. I was like, yes, he's not running. This is perfect. Like, everything's great. But then he decided last minute to run again because he was probably convinced because they needed that seat, right? Or they needed somebody in it. And so this year, I know it kind of seems far away because the election is in November, but it's crazy because I can't believe this. It's already been a year since the insurrection. Like, time is passing so fast. And so it's so important to think about, how can you get involved or get engaged with defeating Marco Rubio this year and defeating Ron DeSantis as well. What were you going to say, Juan?
I was just going to say, we all got to get out and vote. We got to make sure to vote by mail. You're taking care of your neighbor, your sister, your mom, your brother. Get out and vote. I am not in the tune of holding these two chumps accountable anymore. I'm in the tune of sending pink slips. Okay, I am almost 40. I'm not going to say my exact age, but I'm almost 40. Give or take a year. I don't know if you guys remember history. I think it was the Hindenburgs. They got tried for treason for something way less minimal. Not to say that they were or were not, but I definitely do know that what this looked like from my living room and watching onto TV, working the jobs that we do, this was definitely treason. Anybody who respected that, anybody who was down for that, anybody who was part of that movement needs to be tried and go to jail, needs to be put on probation at the least. Marco Rubio, I would like to see him in jail. These are human rights issues that these people are doing. And so accountable is no longer on my tongue here at For Our Future. We are sending out pink slips. I am definitely gunning to get them out of the chair immediately in November.
Absolutely. So speaking of voting, I think it's important not just to vote, but get involved in other ways as well. We can move to the next slide. So we have weekly phone banks that y'all can get involved with, which is like holding these folks to account, and also staying in touch with our community. It's important to stay in touch with them because we want people to know we're here for you around the year. For Our Future is not just an organization that comes up and only is around election time, and then we forget about you. Like, we're here 365 days a year because we care about the community and we want to be engaged with you in a deeper way. And so getting involved with us is really one of the best ways to make a difference in the community. So forfutureflorida.org is our website, a great resource for information and finding out like when we're doing our phone banks and things like that. And then I want to toss it to Sam to talk to us a little bit about Florida for Change and how can folks get involved and support you guys?
Sure. So I definitely agree with you in the sentiment that we need to be involved in the community and doing, not just voting, but also helping people vote and helping people have the information they need to vote. I can't tell you how many times I've heard this, and I'm sure you've all heard this. People don't vote because they don't know the people or they don't know what people have done. I've met people that didn't even know certain positions in government exist. So Florida for Change, our focus is really about informational technology. We are hopefully going to be launching our first municipal vote tracker, helping people know what their city councils are up to, what county commissioners are up to. We're going to start in Tampa. We're going to be expanding to St. Pete, to Newport Richey, and eventually the entire state, because that's a resource that doesn't really exist. And it's just little things like that we don't even necessarily think about that are going to make the process so much smoother, more transparent, more equitable. We're very much about trying to use smart little technological innovations to bring more equity to the process. And I think that it makes all of our jobs easier if we're asking people to vote, right? Because then people will have a better idea of what they're actually voting for, who they're actually voting for, what these people have done or not done. I think it's very easy for a lot of people to hide behind platitudes, and Florida for Change has a mission statement. I think it's trying to repel those platitudes. Show me the receipts. Everybody is going to see the receipts, and I think they have that right. I think Americans just intrinsically have that right to see the receipts. Yeah, beyond that, we're doing little things in the community when we can. Obviously, COVID is kind of putting a cramp on our style. But fortunately, we have all those informational things that we're working on. If you go to our website, flforchange.com, you can find our merch store. You can find our Act Blue. You can support us financially. All that money is immediately going into everything we're trying to do. You can find our vote tracker. You can find events that we've done, events we're going to be doing. Yeah, that's the Florida for Change pitch.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Want to wrap up this afternoon by thanking Sam for being on with us. We really appreciate having you on a guest, and having you as a guest. And I think you brought like a unique perspective to the space. So appreciated sharing the space with you. And we would definitely love to have you back on in the future.
Happy to be back.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much, folks. Wish we had a lighter topic for you today, but hey, it is what it is. We will definitely be back with more. We're going to be doing a lot of work around legislative session this year. So look out for those Facebook Lives coming up. And we hope that you have an amazing day. Thank you so much for joining us today. Bye, everyone.
Later,
Bye,
gears.
y'all.